Our whole purpose here today is to try and eliminate a lot of odors that are in the building, most of which are caused by the stuff that builds up on the inside of your compactors. Now, if first things first, as a safety precaution, what we want to do is all your compactors have a lid to slide down to prevent any garbage from coming down into the compactor while you have this open. So never open up a compactor door until this lid is closed, all right? Because if you have a building that's 30 stories and somebody on the top floor is throwing down bottles or glass or bags of garbage, it comes down like a bullet. So when this is open, you want to prevent any injury. So what we're gonna do is what produces a lot of odors in the building is the buildup of the garbage on the sides of the compactor. Our job today is to eliminate those smells by eliminating the buildup that's in this. Now, there's a few different ways that we're going to do this. One of them is going to be to install an injection pump system that'll shoot an enzyme into the area on a daily basis, and that'll prevent a lot of this from building up. The second method we're going to do today is using a foam gun to foam up the inside of this with the enzyme, which is a bacteria that eats away at all the crud that's in there, all the odor-causing buildup. And the third way that we're going to show you is using a 2-gallon pump sprayer to actually get down into the shaft and prevent those buildups inside the shaft itself. Normally what we do is on a system like this that has a lot of buildup, as you can see, this is a lot of crud. It should look like the outside. It should be green like the outside, but the buildup over time has caused this. Now, a lot of buildings, what they'll do is they'll hire somebody to come in once or twice a year, start on the shaft, and clean that all out. But as an ongoing maintenance to prevent, especially in the summertime when it's hot out, to prevent these odors from forming, we want to be able to put this on a regular schedule, normally once a week. So every 5 to 7 days, as long as you have the enzyme administered, it will keep all the odors in your building under control. So that's our purpose today. We want to be able to keep this buildup from happening, which will prevent the odors from going up the shaft and onto the floors of the building. Okay, so the auto drain comes with mounting hardware. It comes with a 12-volt adapter to 110 that you can plug into the wall. All your mounting hardware is here. It also comes with a small injection nozzle, which we're going to tap into the compactor itself. And that's where your hose is going to come in from the unit. And all the hoses that you need to take the chemical out of the pail or out of the bucket, through the pump and into the system. Particular compactor room, we have a power source that's pretty close to where the compactor is. What we're going to do is we want to get the pump installed in an area that's out of the way, which is nice in this little cubby hole. We can put our 5-gallon pail here and then just run our hose from the pump into the compactor. Okay, so we're getting ready to install the auto drain pump for the compactor. I'm using a hammer drill to get through. This is solid concrete here, so we got to be able to get in there with a molly so we can mount the unit. We're going to use a 5-gallon pail of Eco-Lyzer, which will be placed underneath the pump, and away we go. First thing I want to do is measure the distance in here so we can place the pump at eye level and get it centered on the wall. And we have about 22 inches here. So we want to make a mark at 11. Here's my mark, 11 inches. That's going to be my center. That's my center point. Okay, so we wanted to get the center of the unit and we want to get it at about eye level. If you look in the back of the pump, you'll see a little notch in the back. That's where your bracket is going to slip in. Okay, so at eye level, that bracket's going to slip in approximately 2 inches below where you want the pump to finally be. What I usually do is I will set it here, mark the top, go 2 inches below that. Okay. Again, my center line is going to be at 11 inches. Okay. Here's my center at 11 inches. Here's the center of my mounting bracket. And just mark off the two holes where the bracket's going to go. Deep enough so that the molly is going to go all the way in. If it bottoms out, you got to take it out and re-drill it. So I usually try to go about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. There's going to be one more spot that we're going to put a molly in. That's going to be at the bottom of the auto drain itself. If this is slightly off in terms of being level, that's fine, because you're going to make the adjustment on that last screw. Insert the mollies. You can see how they go nice and tight, and then you finish them off with that. Tap the rest in with a hammer to get them flush to the wall. We're going to install a mounting bracket. This is the up position where you have a little offset. It's going to be on top. Keep them loose to begin with until you can get them both started. Then you can tighten them up. Okay, it's nice and solid. Next, we're going to put the auto drain in place on the bracket, like so. What we want to do is now mark the hole underneath. That's going to secure it in place so it doesn't move. That'll be the last molly that we put in the wall. Looks pretty level. Our last mounting hole. Set the drain in place and secure it with the last screw. Next step is we're gonna set up our Eco-Lyzer pail at the bottom of the, as close by as we can to the unit. Top up the top. That's all. There's a little plastic ring in there. You open that up to get into the bucket. The way the pump works is there's a mechanism inside. In fact, let me open this up so you can see. Inside the pump is a polyethylene tube, which is stabilized by these little notches. The pump itself turns clockwise. What happens is it sucks the liquid up into this section and pumps it back down here. So this is going to be our intake for our Eco-Lyzer. The left side is always going to be the intake. What attaches the tube to the rubber hose is a plastic nut, and inside the nut there's already a bushing in there. Once you tighten down on that, it's gonna secure the hose in place. Put it all the way in until you can't push anymore, and then tighten down. You want to tighten that down as tight as you can to get that bushing to squeeze around the hose. Okay? Next, I'm going to take our feeder tube, extend it all the way down to the floor, because that's where it's going to be at the bottom of the pail. We can cut that feeder tube off. You can even give it a couple of extra inches so it can move around inside the pail. So we're going to cut that feeder tube off here, and then this is the little weight that goes into the tube that's going to hold it down to the bottom of the pail. It's held in place by this little plastic screen, which pops right onto the end of the tube. That gets inserted into the pail, and that drops down to the bottom. Now, our liquid is going to be coming up through here, and then it's going to flow back down, and we're going to feed that into the compactor. Take the feeder tube, line it up inside so it bottoms out right on the bottom of that nut. All right, so we're going to tighten this tube down as far as it'll go, so that bushing tightens up around that tube, and just tug on it to make sure it's in place, so it doesn't, you won't have any leaks. And as we bring it around, we could actually tie it off with wire ties. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to tap into the steel of the compactor. I like tapping into as high as we can. This way, whatever chemical does come out, it covers a wider area inside the machine. So we're going to run our feeder tube over and wire tie it on. Wire ties are included in the kit. Okay, so we got our feeder tube where we want it, somewhat in place. I'm going to be drilling through about 1/8 inch steel. And one of the things we want to do, because we're going to be tapping in, this is supplied, this is a 10 millimeter thread, 3/8 inch lock nut on the end. We're going to tap this into the steel so we can feed our tube on this end, and that'll shoot the enzyme into the compactor. That looks like a good spot right there. Okay. Now, I'm using a tapered tap so we can get started. Apply a little force to get the teeth to start cutting into the steel. Once the teeth are in there and it's going in nice and easy, go in about halfway with the tap, then back it out and install the little injection nozzle. So what I like to do is I'll take the bushing off the end, and we'll use a 3/8 inch just screw that in place and tighten it up. Okay, now that we have our nozzle tapped into place, we're going to put the cover back on the end here that holds the tube. The tube also has a bushing in it. We're going to get our feeder tube installed there, and once we tighten this down, the bushing is going to grab a hold of the tube so there's no leaks. So let's tighten that down. The bushings start to collapse around the tube. Pull on that a little bit. That's when you know it's in place, nice and tight. Okay, so everything is pretty much installed. Now we just have to power it up, and then we're going to program it for what we want to, how much material we want to put into the compactor. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the unit comes with a side compartment, and if you wanted to use batteries, it uses 8 D-size batteries, D-alkaline batteries, or you could hook it up directly with an adapter, which we're going to plug in here, and then bring that around to the side where it gets just pops right in. Once it's on, you'll see it says battery okay. There's an internal battery in the unit which keeps the clock running. So what we want to do is we want to program this now for, well, the first thing we're going to do is we want to prime the unit. So we're going to hit the enter button. Okay, and right now it's showing the time is 10:43, which is pretty much on the money right now because that internal clock is set from the factory, and the internal clock runs on a quartz battery. So now it's set for 10:43. The time is correct, but we want to hit the enter button, and then we're going to hit the prime button. And what's going to happen is you can see the solution coming up through the tube. Coming inside the rubber hose, and now coming back into the compactor. Follow that right around. Make sure it's primed. We want all the air out of the line. And now it's getting injected into the compactor. So once we see there's no bubbles left in the line is primed, we can let go. Now what we want to do is we want to program this to inject a certain amount of chemical into the system, depending on what days we want to use. What we normally do on compactor systems is we want to run it every 8 hours, and we want to run pretty much the minimum on there, which would be 3 ounces per run. So all told, at the end of the day, a single day, we're going to go through about 10 ounces of product. Given we're using 5-gallon pails, so 5 gallons, if you do the math, 5 gallons at 128 ounces per gallon times 5 is approximately 600 gallons. You're going to use 600 ounces. You're going to use about 10 ounces per day. So that pail can last for up to about 2 months. So for 2 months you have worry-free, you don't have to worry about any odors in the building, being produced from the compactor. It's a great device. Nobody has to tend to it. The only time you have to tend to it is when the product is empty and you just replace the 5-gallon pail. Okay, we're at the section now where we're going to program the unit to dispense the amount of product that we want to put into the compactor. To do that, we're going to hit enter, and then we're going to hit program. We're going to hold that program button on till it says program. We're going to say yes. Now enter. It's asking for a user pin. The default user pin on these units is 1000. We usually keep it the same, unless you want to change it to a number that you want. But
We're gonna enter. You'll see 0, 0, 0, 0. I'm gonna hit plus, that's 1, enter, and we're gonna keep all the other zeros. Enter, 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 and now it's validating that number. So we are now in program mode. We go, look at the time, it's 10:51, which is exactly what the time is right now. So we're gonna enter that, enter that. Today is Friday, we're gonna verify it is Friday, and we're gonna say enter. Dispense units. Dispensing units will be in ounces. The amount of dispensing units will be 3.5 ounces for every event. The days that we're gonna dispense, we're gonna keep it on a daily basis. So for 7 days, we're gonna dispense 3.5 ounces, and now we're gonna tell it what times to do that. Now the times, event number 1 is set at 4 a.m. That's the time we like to generally put the product in. It's early in the morning, there's very little activity. So we're gonna keep 4 a.m. and we wanna do this every 8 hours to fill a 24-hour period. So now that's stored. Event number 2, we're gonna set it, right now it's set at 9 a.m., but we wanna set it 8 hours from 4 a.m., which would be 12 p.m. So we're gonna put 11, 12 p.m. Enter, enter, stored. Event number 3, we're gonna go from 8 hours from 12 p.m., which is gonna put us in at 8 p.m. at night. So we're gonna change that to 8. That's stored. Event number 4 has no time. We don't need event number 4, so we're done. We hit program, it says done. So that's it, the auto drain's complete. If you have any questions, feel free to call JAD or visit us at JAD.com.